we come to a concept called law of demand. Now when you talk about law of demand, in this law of demand, we will see that we pick up only one variable. So to understand this law of demand, remember this demand function. Now in this demand function, when you only pick up the first variable, Px, price of the product, you don't take the other variable. So what do you come to? Sorry, we go back. What do you come to? You come to the relation between price and quantity. So what is law of demand? Law of demand is just trying to understand the relation between two variables, price and quantity demanded. And what does this law of demand explain us? That whenever prices change, the demand changes in the opposite direction, such that price and demand are inversely related. Remember the word inversely related. To make it more easy to remember, we have this diagram. You see in this diagram, the x-axis measures demand in units. Y-axis measures price in rupees. How is the demand graph? Like this graph we say convex. Convex ka matlab hai, you see it is the origin, O. So it is convex to the origin. It is downward sloping. So downward sloping means when the price is 12, the quantity is around 12 or 13 units. When the price starts falling from 12 to let's say 2, the quantity demanded moves to 140 units, inverse. So when one variable is going down, the other variable is picking up. Clear? So this is what you will have to remember in law of demand, that law of demand gives us a negatively sloped. We call this type of diagram negative sloped. So how is the demand graph or the demand curve for for price and demand? Negatively sloped. So the two words which you have to remember is inverse and negatively sloped. Now why is the demand curve negatively sloped? I have added a slide over here labeled as income effect and substitution effect. Very, very important. If there is any question in the exam on why the demand graph is negatively sloped, your answer will be income effect and substitution effect. Here I have only given you the meaning of what is income effect and what is substitution effect. Remember, income effect means when the price increases, when the product's price increases, the purchasing power falls. What happens when the price increases or decreases? See, it's opposite. Here the word is real income. So if you say that a bottled or filtered bottled water was priced at 10, and when it becomes 20, what happens to your purchasing power? Suppose at 10 rupee per bottled water, you are buying 2 bottled waters. So how much are you spending? 20. But the moment the price of this bottled water becomes 20, will you be able to buy 2 bottles of bottled water? No. You restrict to 1. What has happened to your purchasing power? Your purchasing power has fallen. Why has your purchasing power come down? Because the product has become expensive. Now this is what happens when inflation takes place in the country. Whenever there is inflation, purchasing power of the people come down. And we call it as real income falls. And therefore, whenever inflation goes up, to compensate people for their fall in real income, the government or the income, in the income there are so many segments. So the DA of the salary component needs to get along with this real income effect. Now that's a macro part. We will not touch upon that. For the time being, you have to only remember what is income effect. Income effect ka matlab hai that either your purchasing power will increase or it will decrease depending on price changes. There is another effect which is taking place. Substitution effect. Substitution effect means when the product which the customer was buying, now this bottled water, it has become 20 rupees. So you cannot buy 2 bottles of bottled water. Immediately as a customer, you will start looking for low price substitute. So low price substitute ka matlab hai, now this is expensive, but I want more quantity. So let me look in the market for substitutes. Iska matlab, whenever prices rise, the demand falls, or whenever price falls, the demand rises. It is because of 2 effects called income effect and substitution effect. I hope this is clear, students. Now we are going to the exception. Exception means the demand graph will not be downward sloping, but it will be upward sloping. There are some products which do not fall under law of demand. Remember one thing, any law that you study in economics is subject to condition. It is conditional. It is full of assumptions. So there are certain situations where the law will not be applicable. Which are those situations? Look at this slide where we have given you first exception, future change in price and speculation. If today the prices are rising, let's say gold, share prices or real estate, and the customer expects that in future the price will still rise, will they buy more or will they not? They will. That means today when the prices are rising, still at rising prices the demand is rising because customers are expecting that in future prices will rise even further. So they don't want to spend more in the long run, and therefore even at rising prices the demand will rise and not fall like the law of demand. So exception. Very, very important second exception is, as you see here, Giffen's paradox. Giffen's paradox is given by Sir Robert Giffen. When he tried to find the Giffen's paradox, he took the product bread. The reason, bread was the low priced food available. So when he found in England people who were from the low income group, they always prefer to spend money on bread because bread was the low priced food available. Now what happened when the price of bread further fell down? So as per law of demand, what should happen? When the price of bread falls, the market demand for bread should pick up. In other words, from a micro aspect, people would be able to buy more loaf of bread. But Sir Robert Giffen was surprised because people did not buy bread even when the price of bread was falling. What did people do? They started saving the money. See, people's purchasing power has gone up now. Price of bread has come down, so people have more purchasing power. They can buy in the same quantity that they were spending more quantity of bread now. But they did not do that. In fact, it happened one day that they saved the money, and with bread they preferred a superior product, which was meat. So people preferred to have a combination of bread and meat. And how this low income group or poor people could afford to buy meat, which was very high priced product, food product. Because when the price of bread had come down, they were able to save money, and when they had enough of saving, they were able to spend it on a superior high priced product, which was meat. So this was popularly called as Giffen's paradox. And Giffen's paradox will always be applicable in all those cases where the products are low priced, and the moment the prices of these products fall, due to income effect and substitution effect, people will prefer to spend money more on superior product, and these products will be declared as Giffen. So products become Giffen when consumers do not buy more of it even at falling prices. I hope, students, it's clear and you have understood this concept of Giffen's paradox. You see, the next concept coming in exception to the law is qualitative changes. Qualitative changes tells us that whenever the quality of the product goes up, consumers will buy more even when the prices are higher. Now that's pure common sense, that there are some customers who are not very price sensitive, but they are more quality conscious. And quality conscious people will never come under law of demand, but rather in exception to the law. Then the next exception, which is the last exception, is price illusion. When you talk about price illusion, there are some consumers who believe that higher the price, better the product, lower the price, inferior the product. So many a times people associate the product's price with the quality. It's like related to quality. So that will also come under exception. Remember one thing, student, in exception, the demand graph will be upward sloping. Higher the price, more the quantity demanded. Lower the price, less the quantity demanded. So vice versa to law of demand. Remember that. I hope this is clear, students. And finally, we have the same display of standard of living. People buying, Mercedes. People prefer to buy Mercedes because or BMW because it is a display of standard of living. There are many people who buy branded products because it displays their standard of living. I'm sure many of you prefer to buy certain products, certain type of shoes, certain outfit because they display your standard of living. Even sunglasses today, they are display of standard of living. So in that cases, law of demand will never be applicable. After understanding this, I have presented 2 slides over here. Now these 2 slides are like a conclusion. Whatever you have studied till now, from the beginning of chapter number 3, about determinants of demand, law of demand and exception, all that is put together in these 2 charts with certain application. Now how will you understand this chart? I am going to explain you one, and the next would be something which I am sure you will be able to understand on your own. Looking at this slide, you see here variable is mentioned, first column. Second column demand, which is our dependent variable. And the third column, what do you conclude? So how will you read it? First, price, symbol I have given in bracket. Now this symbol I have mentioned here because you have already studied in law of demand, demand function, if you remember. And in demand function, you have to put this variable. So any student getting confused with what are the variables standing for should look at these slides. So PX, price of the product, how is it related to demand? Inversely. What does it mean? Whenever price goes up, the demand will fall. Whenever the price falls, demand will rise. Opposite direction. So what happens when price and demand are moving in opposite direction? You conclude that the product is normal and it comes under law of demand. Clear? Second is income. When you talk about income and demand, how are they related? Direct. What does it mean? Higher the income, more the demand. So what do you conclude? The product is a normal good. Price of related product. Here there are 2 alternatives or 2 types of observation. When the price of a related product goes up and the demand for existing product goes up. Yaad rakho, when you talk about demand, you have to remember demand of existing product. So when I take the price of, let's say price of, if I take price of tea, a very simple example, if price of tea goes up, then the demand for coffee will go up. So see, related product, you have to take 2 products. So when the price of tea goes up and the demand of coffee goes up, then how are the products related? Substitute. Students can also study it like this. In case of substitute, the price of one product and demand of other product will move in the same direction, directly related. Price of other good and demand of existing good, inversely related. So when the price of electricity goes up, the demand for electrical appliances will come down because inverse likha hai. Inverse matlab opposite. So if you can take other way also. If the price falls and the demand will rise. So when price of electricity will go down, the demand for electrical appliances will rise. So we say they are complementary. I hope this is clear, students. I don't want to explain each and everything, but I am sure that this is how you can relate it and apply it. Now we come to the diagram or graphical part of whatever we have studied. Here we have two concepts of diagram called movement along the demand curve versus shift of the demand curve. What is the main difference? The main difference in these two is, to remember this, I take you back to this slide where the first variable you see is price. Now just remember this. When you are only explaining the relation between price of a product and demand of the same product in the form of a graph, then that is called movement along the graph. तो याद रखो वो movement word, the word movement along the graph related with price, first variable. Now after price there are so many other independent variable. So except price, except the first one, rest all these variables which are given, income, price of related product, utility, quality, fashion, population, any other variable, that is explained in shift of the demand curve. So you should write it down and remember movement, price and demand related, shift, any other factor, any other variable, any other determinant except price. This is how the diagram will be. You have one demand graph given. So that demand graph you relate with law of demand. So it's like a slide. You know the slide which you see in the park where students, children, slide down. So it's like moving down. Sliding down, which means what? Demand is moving outside. So we call it as what? We call it as expansion of demand. Demand extension. Extension. You have a wire extension. Huh? If you want an extension, electricity extension, what do? You increase it. So it's a demand extension, demand expansion. So expansion will be moving downwards towards the right on the demand, one same demand graph. And what would be contraction? Moving backward. So downward to the right and backward to the left on same one demand graph is movement of the demand graph. But in this diagram there are two demand graphs which are drawn. That is to show shift. Shift will be always shown by drawing a new demand graph. Now what can lead to shift? Either income has changed, price of other product has changed, utility, quality. Suppose if the product quality falls and consumers don't want to buy the product because of the fall in quality, we say the demand shifts to the left. So the demand shifting to the left because of fall in quality. The best example coming to my mind is the recent in news about the fall in the quality and services of Indigo Airlines. Something or the other happening in Indigo Airlines. Maybe with the staff, with lot of... So what will happen? The bookings for Indigo Airlines shift to the left. It's not that they have raised the price, but people are not booking the ticket by Indigo Airlines because of some other factor like quality and services. So the diagram will shift to the left and we say it is decrease of demand. Similarly, shifting to the right is increase. So students, whenever you are learning this is what I have already said. I have concluded it. Movement mein think about price. If we consider price of a commodity alone, then it is either expansion or contraction of demand. If we consider any other factor except price, it is either increase or decrease in demand. Finally, we come to the last part of this chapter, types of goods. How do we divide these types of goods? Durable and non-durable. Durable goods are those products which have a long-lasting span. You can store it for a longer time. Therefore, these products will always have normal price. Their demand will depend on availability or shortages, rate of obsolescence, whether our economy is in recession or not. So if the economy is going in recession, there will be more stock of durable goods. If people are expecting prices are going to rise, they will stock more of the durable goods now, or they will prefer to buy more now. So durable goods are those products where the market demand will depend on lot of factors like whether they will be available in the long run or not. So people prefer to buy and stock it at present. Example, people believe that okay, the prices of certain type of durable goods like furniture is going to become expensive during a particular season, so they better prefer to buy it right now. Yes, peak period when the you can say GST is coming up, so there was a feeling that lot of electronic products and mobiles will become expensive. So those who wanted to buy the mobiles, they prefer to buy right now. So when people, in fact, before GST, there were a lot of people who were buying more than what they wanted, thinking that the impact of GST would be making the products high priced. So automatically the market demand situation fluctuated. This happens in case of durable goods. Non-durable goods are perishable products. You cannot buy a quintal of vegetables and stock it in your refrigerator. Buy a new refrigerator because you want to stock the fruits and vegetable for at least a month, thinking that the prices are going to increase. So non-durable goods cannot be stored, they are perishable, and their demand depends a lot on current situation. One of them is income, convenience and conditions. The second type of demand, students, is long run and short run demand. When you talk about long run demand, remember it's a demand which exists for a longer duration of time. Short run, as the word says, the word is point of time. So you remember this word, short run at a point of time. So you can mark it and keep it. At a point of time, the demand that exists can be categorized as short run demand, and demand which exists over a period of time can be considered as long run demand. So short run demand is the demand for at a point of time at a given like market price. So if gold becomes cheaper at that point of time, at that date when the price of gold fell, how much was the quantity of gold demanded? Another example, demonetization. The moment demonetization was announced, at that point of time, how much gold how many people started converting their cash into gold? And what happened to the price of gold? That is called short run demand. But that situation did not prevail. It was just an overnight situation. In the long run, people were not able to convert their entire cash into gold. So, long run demand. Demand for a particular currency. People waiting in long queues to get converted their currency. So that was again short run, and in the long run now rupees 2000 currency, government is saying that already they have I think worth rupees 7000 crore currency of rupees 200 denomination, which they say is more than enough to meet the market demand. So now in the long run, you will find that it is more of rupees 200, 100 and 500 which is into print rather than 2000. The next type of demand, student, is direct and derived. Remember, students, all consumer goods have direct demand. So from your pair of shoes to your personal products to household furniture, durable or white goods like refrigerators, washing, all are considered as goods coming under direct demand. Consumer durables, tangible or non-tangible. which meet the direct need of the customer. But derived demand is the demand for raw material, demand for factors of production. Correct? IT, now the demand for IT professionals will come under derived demand. Any type of demand for skilled labor will come under derived demand. So derived demand is demand for a product or a material or an input which is required to make the final product. So if we have digital economy coming up, then iPhones and smartphones where you can download those apps very easily, or when you talk about this Paytm wallet and e-wallet, that is considered as direct demand. But the team which works for it or the software which needs to support it will come under derived demand. So whenever direct demand goes up, it will push up the derived demand as well. Next is complementary or joint demand. Complementary already we have studied in the determinants of demand. This is the demand for joint products. Matlab when you buy one product, to run that existing product or to have the maximum utility of that product, you need to buy the related product to run it. The complementary product is that product which has to be jointly demanded to enjoy the consumption or the utility of the product. Some examples are mentioned over here: houses and cement, tire and tube, tea and sugar. And I think from your day to day, you can think of many examples for joint or complementary product. The moment you are buying a product and you have to buy some joint product to use the existing product, you put it under the category of joint demand or complementary demand. Then we have something called as cross demand. This term of cross demand you will be learning in chapter number 4 in cross elasticity. So to understand that, you need to remember it right now: cross demand. Cross demand is the demand for alternative products. So we have already discussed about tea and coffee. Let's discuss about something else. So if you talk about pen and pencil, shirt and t-shirt, trousers and jeans, slippers and shoes, these are what? Substitutes. Correct? So substitute products are those products which are having an alternative demand. So when one is not available, you prefer to go for the other. If cab is not available, you go for a auto, provided it goes there. So people keep looking for alternatives for meeting their wants. So cross demand is the demand for rival products. Already we had discussed it in price of other good. We move to the next type of demand called composite. Very, very important. You have questions in the exam on composite demand. Composite demand is the demand for a commodity, a product which can be put to several uses. So here they have given you electricity. Or when you take an example, you can say any material, raw material or resource which have alternative uses. Then we say that that particular product has a composite demand. Water, steel, rubber, yes, it has alternative uses. So this will come under composite demand. So that a particular material or resource which can be suitably demanded by various segments in the market. Then we have industry demand and firm demand. Now remember students, when you are learning about industry and firm, make it very clear over here, firm is a part of industry. We can say that group of firms together make an industry. Okay, example given here is demand for medicines of Glaxo is a firm demand, but that for all medicines and drugs in industry. So pharmaceutical industry. Now which are the firms which will come under pharmaceutical industry? Yes. So you have Dr. Reddy's, you have Ranbaxy, yes, you have Glaxo company, you have Pfizer. So you have names of many companies. So they together cluster come apart under pharma industry. So whenever government makes any policy with respect to pharma industry, it means it is applicable to all the firms which constitute that industry. So understanding this is important, especially when you talk about policy, government policy making. Then we come to market demand and segment demand. When you talk about market and segment, I think students who learn marketing, first market is a broad picture, and out of that market, when you divide it into parts, so this is where you remember micro, macro, we had a distinguished called method of study, slicing and lumping. So market is lumping method, studying everything together, and out of that when you slice, when you try to pick up one segment of the market and study it, then that is called segmented demand. So this is where your micro concept of slicing and lumping can be made very clear. So with that, students, we have completed successfully our chapter 3. I hope you are able to understand what has been explained. You have jotted down the tips which I have given you, and I request you to keep re-listening for conceptual clarity. Thank you.